store. So,
Mm.
and here we are with our God complexes in check right now, as we are in the spoiler room. It's a new month, folks. It is a new month, which means a new theme. Been doing this 2 years now. So we've got a new where I've been doing a theme month every month, and you can blame my right hand man who's with me today, Mr. Ian Simmons, who suggested it a while ago, and I am subject to suggestion, but I can't be hypnotized. But it don't need to. You could just give me an idea, and then I will run with it. And you go, "What are you talking about? It's his idea." If it goes south.
Well, no, I was going to say, like, I may have inspired you to do monthly themes, but these themes are all yours. Like, I could not have imagined we'd be doing a full month of, I'm not going to spoil your thunder. A full month of what?
Of Kidman in 4D. Yes, folks. I figured it out of a way because last month we spun the wheel of random and we got Stoker for this month's Perfect 10 episode. And if you've been following along at all, which I hope you have, and if not, that's fine too. It only works in my brain too. Is each of those special episodes sets the theme for the next month, and so since Stoker stars Nicole Kidman, I was looking back and I'm like, huh. I wanted to talk Malice because I've watched this movie many times in the 90s when it came out. Yeah, a number of times. Not well, I should say many, but I watched it probably a good half a dozen times or so in the 90s. And I'm like, okay, Malice. Well, that's 93. And I'm like, well, what was in 2003? And then did she have a movie in 1983? And lo and behold, yes. So, Kidman in 4D, the D stands for decades. We are looking at a film from Nicole Kidman, one in every decade from 1980s to 2013s, the 10s or whatever.
Can we do a special episode where we talk about that AMC Theaters promo that she does?
We can do that. We can, but that was in 2022. That's not quite the next decade,
but it's playing in 2023.
It is. I guess. I don't know. I don't go to AMC films. The closest one is the Dells, like an hour and a half away. But you are not an hour and a half away, my fellow listeners. Thank you for venturing down the stairs, pulling up a chair, and listening to us talk movie spoilers. As yes, we kick off Kidman in 4D month with a look at 1993 Malice, starring all kinds of familiar faces with an interesting story that Mr. Ian Simmons is going to tell you about right now.
Yeah, make me do this, huh?
Synopsis away, my good friend.
Look, I don't know how you saw this movie multiple times, like around the time that it came out. I remember it being out. The only thing I remember, we might talk about this later, is the trailer, that famous line that you kind of open up with.
Yes.
You know, you think I have a God complex? I am God. That's the only thing I knew about this movie. So I watched it for the first time today.
Yes.
And I didn't, I've never seen a movie like this before.
like this on VHS. Ooh. Yes, I have it on VHS, folks, because you cannot find this on DVD, and it's on digital only right now. But you got to buy it. You can't even rent it. It's like $15 for
I might buy
digital.
it, Mark. I might buy it. Either that, I'm going to hold out for like the 50th anniversary Blu-ray 4K in 20 years, hologram, whatever.
So give us the.
This movie is amazing. Okay, so I didn't even pull up the IMDb page. I'm going to have to go off remember people's names. Oh my God. Okay, so Bill Pullman plays Andy. He's a college professor at a sleepy New England town, it looks like. I don't know. And he's got a wife played by Nicole Kidman, and they don't really get along. They kind of do, but not really. And she likes to cut him down a lot. There's this sultry, mysterious surgeon who moves into town, played by Alec Baldwin. His name is Jed Hill. And there's a series of sexual assaults around campus. Which, I'm trying to not talk about the trailer because I'm watching this movie. I hadn't watched the preview before I watched the movie.
Sure.
Except for like 30 years ago.
Well, that's the way I like it. I want to see the trailer after the movie.
Right. But I'm watching it. I'm like, okay, is Bill Pullman going to be the rapist or is it Alec Baldwin? But wait, the timelines don't quite match up. Turns out, spoiler room, that plot has nothing to do with the movie we're about to talk about.
And yet it opens with it, a full sequence.
The whole thing gets resolved in like 40 minutes. And you're like, okay, what's the rest of this movie about? But it turns out that Alec Baldwin operates on Nicole Kidman, removes one of her, both ovaries, because one is necrotic,
right?
or he claims to believe that it is. Plus, there's a 4 to 5 week fetus in there that dies during the procedure, all to save her life. Has to sacrifice the baby and the ovary, so she'll never have kids again. So Bill Pullman's devastated. Nicole Kidman's devastated. There's lawyers coming out, going after each other. But it turns out that Nicole Kidman, our Tracy, is she's actually seeing Dr. Hill. And Andy finds out about it and decides to get a little bit of revenge. And this movie did not end the way I thought it would. It's completely nuts. It has a bunch of twists and turns. It has a scene it's like one of those mind-blowing scenes, and I don't know if you can fully appreciate this, Mark, because you watched it a bunch of times. But for me, watching a movie from 1993 in which Gwyneth Paltrow shows up as a college student,
yes,
and then she's like sassing the professor as Bill Pullman kicks her out of his office. And who does she run into? Fucking Jigsaw Tobin Bell as the janitor. I'm like, wait, what?
And let's not forget the appearance of Lilith as the security officer for the campus,
doing like a weird Massachusetts accent. Like she wasn't this mass when she was in Cheers.
And if that isn't enough for you folks, we also have Anne Bancroft showing up and George C. Scott. This movie is amazing. This movie doesn't get talked about enough because it is just so bonkers amazing. Where you start, you're absolutely right. Where you're at point A, where the movie starts, if you follow the formula of a film, where it ends is not point B. It's not a straight line by any means. It's got 4 left turns and a right turn in there, and then it goes into a loop and into the overpass and underpass, and then maybe gets to point D, skipping B and C.
I mean, it opens with the Brett scene from Alien, where the college co-ed is biking back to her house, and she goes in there and tries to feed the cat, and the cat's like staring at her, and it's like growling, and she like kneels down. She's like, "What is it, boy?" And then giant, like 9-foot tall monster shows up behind her and like attacks her, lifts her up off the ground, and then we cut to an ambulance, and she's did she survived though, I think, right?
Yes, she survived. That's because he's the crack surgeon. He wasn't in town for 9 hours. He got called in.
That's right.
Fixed her up and saved her life, which is why Andy, her professor, who came rushing to the hospital because he cared, runs into Jed. Which out of all your slick looking doctors, you would not expect one to be called Jed.
I think this is I think he and Andy, because it's established early on they went to high school together. Yeah. I think they went to high school in like a small podunk town, and Alec Baldwin's parents named him Jed, and he became like this womanizing heartthrob neurosurgeon / captain of the football team as revenge against his parents
for his name. Yeah,
like I'll show you, Jed. Can we just do an entire podcast? Can I derail this and talk about Alec Baldwin's hair in this movie? It's like a Simpsons cartoon. It's like perfectly like juts out 3 feet from his scalp, comes up to a perfect like curve, edge curve.
Yeah, it doesn't move either. This entire movie, it doesn't move.
Look, I love Alec Baldwin. It's disappointing what happened to him recently. But back in the 80s, like he was a big sex symbol and everything. I think it's the first time where I've actually looked at an Alec Baldwin movie and thought, I kind of want to sleep with Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, he's hot in this. Everybody's beautiful in this freaking movie.
Even Bill Pullman is like kind of hot. And Nicole Kidman, we mentioned Lilith from Frasier. Yeah, that's right. Gwyneth Paltrow was probably like 19 in this movie. Yeah. Okay, I'll even give it to Tobin Bell.
Tobin Bell, he didn't look. He wasn't looking too rough either. But now that I think about it, because folks, yes, this is a spoiler room. So the subplot that leads you into thinking this film is what it's about, which it isn't. The whole serial rapist thing, which is kind of this sub background plot. Yeah, big surprise, especially now if you watch it, you go, oh look, Tobin Bell. I mean, the minute you see Tobin Bell's character, who they they introduce as the maintenance guy, you're like, oh, he's the rapist. It's Tobin Bell.
But that's the thing is that's the. Did you feel that when you watched it back in '93? Because you didn't know who Tobin Bell was. You're like, oh, just random janitor guy.
You don't see him as Jigsaw. You just see him as random janitor guy. You don't know who this guy is at all. More, and not only that, but so this film, wow, so many threads. So you have Andy, right? And he's got his rocky relationship with his wife. He discovers his newfound friendship with his old high school pal, Jed. But he thinks fairly quickly, we established that he thinks his wife might be running around with him on his lawyer, with her lawyer.
Or lawyer, yeah.
Played by Peter Gallagher, who shows up here.
I loved it in what, and again, I'm getting in a trailer talk, but in one of the trailers, it was like, and Bill Pullman from Sleepless in Seattle, and Peter Gallagher from something else. They should have said, and Peter Gallagher also from Sleepless in Seattle. No, it was While You Were Sleeping. I'm getting my 90s rom-coms mixed up. Yeah. But they were in that movie together.
They blend together, those films, kind of like the J-Lo rom-coms. They all kind of blend in together, and she was some kind of maid, wedding planner, whatever, Anyway,
you got mail while you were sleepless in Seattle.
Yeah, there you go. See,
there you go.
Exactly. But back to so it starts off, you thinking, okay, serial rapist type of thing, and how does, they try to play it for a very short time as if Jed might be the one. Okay, you could tell the way they set it up. They have him flirting with two young college girls before he goes and operates on Tracy. He ends up getting a room because Tracy and Andy they bought this old house that they need a fixer-upper that they want to start their family in. And since Jed's just in town, they decide to rent the third floor to Jed because, hey, high school buddy, you need help? I'm going to help you out. And it gives us some money, right? So they've got that whole storyline. But they play off for a while that it could be Jed being the killer. But it's not. It's Tobin Bell, which Andy discovers fairly quickly, and he gets in this wonderful fight where they beat the shit out of each other, and he ends up clocking Tobin Bell with a fire extinguisher. And you're like, wait, that's only, like you said, it's only like 40 minutes into the movie. What's going on? And yeah, Tracy is all angry for obvious reasons at Jed for the malpractice thing. You get the wonderful trial scene or pre-trial. It's a disposition scene, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah. What was it? Oh yeah, the deposition. It was George C. Scott in the one scene that he really has in this movie versus Peter Gallagher. And yeah, like this, it's weird because this movie, it's co-written by Aaron Sorkin,
right?
Who would go on to do like West Wing and like a Social Network and all this crazy stuff.
He's a dialogue master. I mean, the guy, yeah,
he is. But then this also feels like it's sort of a soft core clone of Basic Instinct, because this came out like the year after that. So yeah, you got some sex scenes, but they're not really that sexy. And the whole time I'm thinking, like, every time they show part of Nicole Kidman, I'm like, oh well, yeah, that's the body double. You've got like the the hair shot from the back or from the side. But it's kind of the movie that I didn't want any of the violence or the sex. I just wanted these people to talk to each other because they're so vicious. At one point, when it's shortly after Bill Pullman beats the crap out of Tobin Bell's character, does he go to Peter Gallagher? Yeah, he goes to Peter Gallagher's office, the lawyer, and Peter Gallagher's like, what the hell happened to you? And Bill Pullman says, I just beat the shit out of a deeply disturbed serial rapist.
Yeah. And then he follows that up with, how long have you been fucking my wife? I mean, it's like Andy got his man on. He's this mild-mannered kind of Mr. Rogers professor at first, and after he beats the snot out of Tobin Bell, he's just like, serial rapist. He's like, oh, that's it. I got some adrenaline left. I'm gonna go kick this lawyer's ass.
Well, and it's strange because I want to watch this movie again, probably after I buy it on digital. But he is so, like, Tracy is so mean to her husband, who's like, he's kind of, not the most stand up for himself kind of guy until later when he gets pushed too far. But seems like she turns on a dime. And we know, of course, by the end of the movie why that is, because she was conning him the entire time, didn't give a crap about him. But like, she was just so mean to him. Like, it seems like out of nowhere.
Yeah, well, it was weird the way they played that off, because when you meet him in the beginning, you're even like, for a very brief time, you're like, okay, I can see why these are two together, but that doesn't last too quickly. You're like, oh,
right.
Wait.
Because they seem fine. I mean, they're talking about like they're sharing the stress of having to pay however much to read the plumbing in the house and stuff. And it seems like they're on the same team and they're very much in love. But like, oh my God, the whole bit where she leaves him after the whole like ovary thing, he's like, we got to go through this together. And she's like, I don't, you can't go through this with me. It's not about you. It's about me. And I'm like, there's something else going on here. It turns out there was.
Well, she also kind of blames him because Jed, during the procedure, because she does have these ovarian cysts that end up flaring up, and that's what sparked her emergency trip to the ER. And supposedly drunk, he had a few drinks. Jed operated and made the wrong call, but he wasn't the only one that made the call. He asked Andy about what he needed to do, making it sound very dire, and Andy's all distraught. So he's like, yeah, okay, sure, whatever you got to need to do. So Tracy kind of blames Andy for it, even though Andy just wanted her to live.
Right.
And so that's why she broke up, but she actually wanted to break out because she wanted to get a piece of the Baldwin. So,
and that's the thing, is like, because in the moment I'm watching it, I'm like, this does not feel like the way a married couple would talk to each other or deal with each other. Like the whole idea of like, I'm gonna go off by myself, and how could you try and save my life?
And one thing with Bill Pullman is, I've always loved him as an actor. I think he's an underrated actor. I think he's really good. He ends up getting these kind of nice guy roles, but there's a wonderful moment in this film where the truth is revealed, because as he's learning about, he goes and visits Tracy's mom, who Tracy said was dead. This was after he confronted the lawyer, and played beautifully by Anne Bancroft. It's like, holy crap. She sells this whole role. That's where she tells him that, no, Tracy's a con artist. And you're, again, another point in this film, like, wait, it turns out she's from a family of con artists, and she's been conning her way the whole time, and this is just her latest mark. So she, no pun intended. So she tells him about, the doctor at the local clinic that actually gave her first abortion, where she took the money from another rich guy. And so he goes to the house and he's looking at this house and he sees the same statue. He's like, oh, this statue is
it's the Degas, yeah.
the Degas. And she's like, yeah, you can buy knockoffs for $20 anyway. And he's like, what? And he looks into this house and sure as shit, there's a Degas there. But he's looking in the house for clues and suddenly he hides in the closet because they show up. And so you've got Tracy who shows up and he's like, okay. And then dun, 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 Alec Baldwin. And where I was going with this is Bill Pullman pulls this perfectly because, like I said, you're used to him playing the nice guy roles. He can really look sinister or dark when he wants to. And he does here. He kind of comes out of the shadow and he looks like he could kill anybody.
He does. And I think it's earlier on in the movie, and I can't remember what the scene was. Maybe there's a couple of them, but just like, yeah, it's the look. Because he gets like put down by his wife and he gets put down by, the doctor guy. Because there was that line like, yeah, we went to high school together. It's like, did we, were we in the same class or something? Like, he's like, I don't remember. He was like, yeah, I don't think you even knew who I was.
Yeah.
But he does have this kind of wounded look to him that kind of turns sour, and you almost start to think, is the movie trying to make me believe that he could be the one attacking these girls on campus? As some kind of like a Jekyll and Hyde thing. I don't know. I'm glad that wasn't the angle.
No, that wasn't the angle, but he then gets this wonderful scene where he confronts Tracy. It's a wonderful, this confrontation scene I love in the diner. And it's why you like Aaron Sorkin. This is early Aaron Sorkin, but the guy can write dialogue. I mean, any movie you watch, it's like word foo for him. And the fight back and forth that they do between each other. And Bill Pullman actually gets kind of a badass look at it. He's like, sit the fuck down. I'm in control here.
Well, what I liked about, I generally like Sorkin too, but I think as his career has gone on, he's become a little bit too in love with his words and he's forgotten how to write the way that people talk to each other. I feel like Malice was still in the mode where he was writing actual people who would talk to, carry on conversations, very smart conversations. He can write smart people, but it didn't just feel like, witticism and, isn't this so clever of me? And, pepper with some fucks. But yeah, I agree that confrontation, because you can just see in Nicole Kidman's face how she's got her defenses up. Like she's probably dealt with people like Andy many times and she's always got the upper hand, but you can see her start to lose, and it's just so refreshing.
Well, what I also take by it is that, in every other case, you're right, she's in control. And I don't think she expected this from Andy is what it is. She saw him as the easy, easy mark, the person, this guy who's kind of a quiet teacher. So, hey, and I'll put it that way because within the context of the film, this attractive teacher who loves working with kids suddenly is, in love with him and so gets married. So you can see easily where she, he may have taken it, the whole thing, as being honest because, hey, holy crap, this woman is interested in me, and may look, and she puts up a good game.
Well, there's also that weird photo that Alec Baldwin, when he first comes to visit the house, he kind of drops in, he sees a framed picture of like a newspaper clipping that they have about how, teacher finds love with former student. I'm like, that's not gonna be any campus paper there. What is that from? I want to read more. I want to read that article.
Would you like to know more? But yeah, it's just that wonderful scene at the diner though. She ends up breaking her glass because she's holding this glass and it shatters. All it is two people talking, but there's so much wonderful tension and just dripping viciousness between these two. It's great. It's one of the great scenes of this. It's why I enjoy this film so fucking much, because you get these scenes. Although I did forget, it's been a while. I did forget. This is the, oh my God, breasts are amazing movie. And And
I thought the same thing.
let me put this in context, folks. Okay, the director. Okay, it's Nicole Kidman. I get it. You know, she is attractive, but many people find her attractive and whatnot. But in this film, whenever she's about to score, basically, she's supposed to, bed the man she's with. They do this move to where she takes a step back and she removes her shirt, and you don't see anything. It's above shoulder, but she removes her shirt, and anyone who sees this it's like Vincent Vega looking into the suitcase with the glow, but there's no glow, but they're looking into the suitcase and they have this look of awe. And at first you're like, oh, with the one scene, but it happens like three times total in this film to where she'll push it back and she just takes her shirt off and they're just like, whoa.
I think Bill Pullman actually looks left to right. Like you can see him like looking off camera. Like, there's one, and there's another one.
It's just I don't know why it caught my eye, but I'm just like, that's hilarious. And at one time you're like, okay, it's a scene, but when she does it again with Alec later, I'm like, okay, that's just funny. And then there's the other running gimmick they do with Alec, who, when he shows up, he startles Andy at one point, and then later on, he startles Tracy at one point. They both even literally say, "Oh, you scared me." I'm just like, there's running gags in this movie too.
If you think about, like, knowing that Andy and Tracy, Jed and Tracy,
Right,
have been in on this scheme for a long time. The scenes, the one scene, the famous scene where she's like in the bathroom picking up pills or something, and or no, she's getting pills and he startles her and she drops them and then he helps pick them up or whatever. It's just like he's leaning in, he's looking at her all intense. The way that scene is shot is there's this new stranger living in our house, and I don't know if he's here to attack me or whatever. He's just like smoldering and looking intensely at her, like creepily. What sense does that make? Knowing now what we know, like, and why didn't she go, dude, why are you looking at me like that?
Well, and that's the thing. It makes me wonder though, if maybe him initially showing up wasn't part of her plan with him, possibly. With Jed, she had some kind of setup, but she saw an opportunity with when Jed shows up, and then they off screen, we don't see it, maybe had a little bit of a plan just after they meet, but probably not. There's other clues or tells once that you can see where they kind of know each other right away, especially when they first meet. When the elevator opens, he goes, Bill Pullman goes, "Oh, and speak of the devil," and he goes, "And the devil may come." It's like you see the way they two play off each other. So, the only thing I could think of the way they do this scene with the drugs is, one, to try to throw the audience off, but two, maybe a little bit of either him trying to be intimidating or, um, uh, doing it that way. Maybe, I'm not quite sure. The drug scene does throw you off a little bit, given the grand scheme of everything of how they play it off. But it's a little minor. You wonder if he's doing it on purpose or if he's being playful. Even with the scary stare. But for a film that is trying to be, like you said, Hollywood has this problem of mimicking one another once the big trend of a movie comes out. So Basic Instinct come out, and then you had this trend for a shorter while of the erotic thriller of sorts, the steamy, more mature thriller. And this tries to play at the line, though you actually only get like one nude scene, and that was when when Jed is upstairs having sex with the nurse above that bed's right above Andy and Tracy's, so you can hear everything.
It's been going on for 3 hours. I'm like,
It's an old house, so
I just wondered when the hell, like, we see our doctor doing his business exactly twice, like surgery,
Hmm.
but the rest of the time is like, oh, he's up at like before dawn running, and he's out at the bar drinking, and he's having
Mhm.
sex. Like, when does he like A, sleep, and B, like actually practice medicine?
That's not important. That's not important.
Apparently, um I don't know.
Uh,
There was what I was gonna say. Oh, there are some really bad edits in this movie.
mhm.
There's the scene at the bar where
Yeah.
where Jed is trying to pick up on these two women, and they're like drinking and stuff, and the song that's playing is Little Miss Can't Be Wrong by the Spin Doctors, a song I love.
Mhm.
And it's this kind of like playful scene. He's flirting and everything. And then all of a sudden it cuts to Nicole Kidman having these like ovarian pains, and it's like something out of a
Mhm.
horror movie. She's like stumbling and like grabbing, and there's like crazy violin music, or like like it's just tonally completely off and out of complete left field, because I think this is the first time we've had any indication that she's in trouble. Like, did someone stab her? Like, did the rapist get her? But I think he'd been dead by that point, or
Mhm.
assaulted.
He
It's
was
just so
assaulted, yeah.
there were a few scenes like that where you've got something kind of nice and fun, and it's juxtaposed with something horrible. And I think there's at least one case where there's something horrible followed up by, oh, like the end of the movie. Um, yeah, my wife has just murdered someone, and I had to fight for my life because she betrayed me and tried to kill this little kid. Now she's being hauled off to jail for the rest of her life. I'm gonna flirt with my cop friend here, and we're gonna end the movie on some funny banter and playful music. What?
Uh, So yeah, so yes, folks, it boils down to insurance fraud is what the whole gimmick is for Tracy. And whether or not she had it planned with Jed beforehand, or if she saw Jed as possibly her opportunity finally, you know, eh, we're not it's kind of established it was long term, but it was just hard to say whether or not it was actually before or during when they met. But it doesn't
Yeah,
matter. It's funny because uh whereas the plot takes this turn, so does the power shift in all these couples. Because initially Alec Baldwin's Jed comes off as this just like macho, like, quarterback guy, this smart, cracked surgeon that everybody, he just knows his shit. And he's like, "You asked me if I have a God complex. Let me tell you something. I am God." Chewing up the scenery left and right.
oh yeah,
And
that bit where he's rattling off his degrees and all the reasons
yes,
like he's awesome. It's great. Like,
it's
people forget like how fine an actor Alec Baldwin is.
yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's so
given
great.
especially given recent events, but back in the day, especially in the movies he was in, he just gave it his all, and he just chewed this monologue up. And then after Andy confronts Tracy, and Tracy tells Jed about it, Jed's like, "All right, well, let's give him the money. Let's just get this over with." He's like, "He's got us," and she's like, "Well, no, because Andy puts into Tracy's head that he never got the curtains in their bedroom done because this was a fixer-upper." And we get this scene early on where there was a love-making scene between them where they were starting to, but the kid could see through the window from across the way because 'cause we're talking a city, the houses are that close. So it kinda made things awkward for at least one of them. Tracy didn't care. Anyway, uh, Tracy didn't care. No, but so later on, when he confronts her about the whole con, he's like, "Yeah, and if something happens to me," because he said he's not putting it above her. I love that, how he just kinda, "It's in my will to go refer to the 10-year-old kid next door," and he doesn't give the particular, it's beautiful classic movie, innuendo. He's like, "Yeah, too bad you didn't have me put the curtains in the bedroom, huh?" Because he's implied she's getting these injections to make these cysts on purpose to do the fraud. So near the climax of this film, uh, she goes to kill the kid, obviously. but just before that, she's doing this scene with Jed. Jed's like, yeah, let's just give him the money and go. It's like 20 million. He's like, we'll give it 10. And she's like, no, this is my freaking money. I want all of it. He's like, no, let's just give it. Poor Jed. He's like, no, let's give it to her. She's like, no. And then she pulls a gun out and he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, oh yeah, this. Bang, dead. And you're like, another twist in this plot.
She shoots his ass twice.
She shoots him twice. And when that happened, I'm just like, I did not see that one coming.
Well, I just like it because at the after the climax of the movie is over, the bonkers climax, I can't remember if it was Lilith or if it was Andy. I call her Lilith. She's the detective lady. Someone had said like, I expected Jed to be here or something, or like, where's Jed? And I think Andy was like, I don't think he's a problem anymore.
I get the feeling he's not a problem anymore. Yeah. He just looks at Tracy.
Like, so dark.
And if this film doesn't have enough twists or turns, they put in one more brilliant twist at the very end, because we have Tracy. She's gone through all this, right? We find out she's the con artist. She's been doing this forever. Not above killing a kid, which was just a dummy in the 10-year-old's house. They finally resolve everything and whatnot. She's getting put in the car. And one of the final scenes we get is we get to meet the 10-year-old kid of sorts. But guess what, folks? He's blind.
Tapping his little cane and getting the help up the sidewalk. And
that's like icing on this bonkers movie. It's Aaron Sorkin writing, so it's so well written, but it's completely bonkers. And then you get that final like bookend to where the kid was blind all along, and you're just like, this started off with a serial rapist, and we end up here.
The only thing that would have made it more perfect is if the little blind 10-year-old had been the serial rapist.
That'd be a little harder. That'd be a little harder to pull off, but yeah.
Nice choice of words. No, there is a great bit of dialogue between Tracy and Jed during that confrontation right before the gun goes off. He's like, what do you want? She's like, I want half. What the fuck do you think I want? And then she starts talking about killing the kid. And I think Jed's like, he's a 10-year-old boy. And then she says, I typed this down on my phone. I didn't think I was going to take notes, but I had to start getting this craziness down. She says, he's a little fucking troll who deserves what he gets for fucking up my life.
Right?
and then he slaps her across the face.
He slaps her and she shoots him. It's
a monstrous thing to say. I think
it is.
I don't think he had realized the level of crazy that he like attached himself to, because that's a great thing about that scene is up until that point, Alec Baldwin's character had the total badass, cold, calculating character dynamic or character traits that you think he's the villain of this piece, but he wasn't. And to see him strip those layers away to the point where he's like, yeah, let's just, because what he says, let's just give him half the money and we'll take the rest. He's keeping it cool, but you can kind of sense on the inside, like, you're crazy. We're not going to kill a 10-year-old. What have I got myself into? Please, can we please just take the money and get out of here?
I don't know, Penguin. I mean, killing kids, it's kind of, Sorry, I had to do that reference. 1992. Anyway,
it's all good.
But you're right. And here's the thing, and this is why pardon my get off my lawn moment. But the way this movie plays out, while her suddenly just really flipping, even on Jed, and see Jed's reaction to this, going, oh crap, she is crazy. we get just enough backstory between that scene between Andy and Bancroft's character, the mom, enough backstory to put it together what's going on in Tracy's head without them actually like having him go to a shrink and having a shrink said, "Oh, you know what I'm saying?" The modern kind of handholding, like you would have to have a few scenes that talk about, "Oh, she was always batshit crazy" or what. No, we
Yeah.
just get the one scene with Andy, and then we see her turn on Jed and start calling the kid a troll and wanting to kill the kid because he's ruining her life. If you paid attention, you're like, I fully see where she could think that's the case or why she thinks that, you know?
Well, I mean, we were talking a little bit earlier about noir movies during the
Mhm,
the pre-show, and I think this movie, particularly in the last like 20 minutes, sort of becomes this like
mhm,
saucy flashback to noir movies where Nicole Kidman is this femme fatale. I mean, it's not so much like a villainess monologue, but she is kind of making these no nonsense plans. Um, yeah, and even the type of guns that are used here, they look like they
mhm.
don't look like sleek like cop guns in the 90s. They look like old fashioned revolvers. I did like that. You mentioned that she goes to the kid's house, she sneaks up the stairs, ends up strangling a dummy, but then Bill Pullman shows up in the doorway.
That's a great fight, yeah.
He says, "It's like shooting tuna in a barrel." And then she charges at him, and they both go flying like through the railing and down a flight of like down a floor, crash
Yeah.
landing into the floor, and they're both like horribly injured. But it's so crazy because she does like the Miss Piggy like flying into a rage and just like tackles him through the stairs. I'm like,
Well,
what is this movie? This was Remember when this was like a dark thriller about a rapist on campus, and
now
now it's like Roadhouse 2.
No, I love well, here's the thing is what I picked up on it is because, uh, um, what's her name? Miss Kensinger, who is Anne Bancroft's character, Ms. Kensinger. That's the term she used. She used it's like shooting tuna in a barrel. So when we bring it back around later and Andy flips the light on and that's all he says, what I always piece together with it is shooting tuna in a barrel is like the common phrase that her mom used. And so by him saying like shooting tuna in a barrel immediately triggered her because it reminded her of her mom, and she
Mhm.
pieced together that he had talked to her mom, reminding that, he had a lengthy conversation even though he told her before, but she didn't like her mother so much that it triggered her that she was already in a rage because she was destroying furniture with this dummy. Um, because at this point she's just lost it, realizing her entire plan is crumbling down around her ears, her head. And yeah, they break through the rail a la movie style. So they're movie it's movie world. So when they land, they're hurt and not unconscious. And Tracy goes for the gun, and uh, Dana, baby Newworth's character shows up. Yeah.
Here's the thing though. It's like
Hmm.
yeah, I agree that the shooting fish tuna in a barrel
Yeah.
is a good callback, and you're exactly right for why it works, but it's almost like Aaron Sorkin was trying to have that moment, the Schwarzenegger moment, where he says the funny line
Yes.
right before the kill, the pun, but he couldn't quite pull it off. He should have said something like, "Who feels like a dummy now?"
Yeah.
Because of the CPR thing or something, or you know. But it's not. It's like it's just,
At
and
least
Pullman
so
delivers it like it's one of those pithy one-liners too, which makes it
it's
even more odd.
it's like, okay, Bill, this is your scene, all right? This is your Schwarzenegger moment. You're coming down to it. You flip on the light, you say this line, but you're the hero. This is your like one-liner before you take out the bad guy. So just sell it, Bill. Flip. It's like shooting tuna in a barrel. All right, cut.
Oh.
Perfect. All right, good. Bring in the stunt crew. Um,
I'm just so happy that the Mandalorian brought in that moss-faced pirate guy, because now I'm seeing all sorts of Pizza the Hut memes, and it just reminds me of Bill Pullman and Spaceballs. That's always a good thing.
It was brilliant in Spaceballs. Spaceballs is so brilliant. Sidebar. Oh, here we go. What tangent in this show? What? No, in Spaceballs, the reason you didn't see any merchandise is because George Lucas told him he couldn't sell any merchandise. George Lucas gave his blessing for the parody of Spaceballs, but he said he couldn't sell any merchandise. That's why you have the merchandise scene in Spaceballs.
That sucks, because all I wanted when I was a kid was Spaceballs action figures. I wanted the Winnebago.
I know.
Man.
I think it ran out later on. They were able to, like, for an anniversary. I think they started releasing toys, but yeah, initially, at least Mel Brooks could not release any merchandise from Spaceballs for it. So, but I love Bill Pullman in that. So
just cut George Lucas in for 25% of the toys, and just, man, come on.
There's 3 movies that I mean, I love Bill Pullman also in Independence Day, but 3 movies for sure that I just love Bill Pullman in. And that is and we've talked about almost all of them except Spaceballs. I love him in Spaceballs. I love him in Malice here, and a Serpent in the Rainbow. I'm like, Bill Pullman is just so cool. And in this one, the fact that, and here's the thing, he never quite I guess, considered an A-list star. They tried for a while, but you look at the talent in this film, even for the one scene offs, like Anne Bancroft and George C. Scott, it's like he holds his own fairly well, I think, throughout this film, considering you're going against the ego of Alec Baldwin at the time, and Nicole Kidman was a powerhouse herself at this time as well. She was everywhere as well. So I dig this movie so much.
I do too, and Bill Pullman's great. It was about 10 years ago or so. I actually went to see a stage play. It was a local Chicago production called Once Upon a Rom-Com, the Bill Pullman story. And it was about, like, it was a person playing the real life Bill Pullman who'd been in all these rom-coms and stuff, but he was never able to find love. And so the spirit of Jeff Goldblum shows up to help him find love. And it was so wacky and fun.
Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun.
I think I went and I saw that play like 4 times.
You mentioned Gwyneth Paltrow. I forgot she was actually in this till I was rewatching it again, and they're doing the scene with the student who was late, and I'm like, is that Gwyneth Paltrow? Is that Gwen? Oh shit, that's Gwyneth Paltrow. And her character shows up dead later, but I'm just like, I forgot she was in here.
A couple of things. One, what timing, because the Trial of the Century Part 2 just wrapped up.
Yeah, I know, right?
Honestly, Mark, I knew nothing about that trial until like the day that it ended.
Really?
I think I'd seen something about like Gwyneth Paltrow was in court. I'm like, okay, but then like people were asking me questions about, I'm like, what are you talking about? A skiing accident? Don't bother me. But the other thing is the bit where they find her, where Bill Pullman finds her body.
Yeah.
We talked about Sin City a bit earlier. That was something like straight out of a comic book. Like, you see her body and then it like leads up from her feet all the way up to her body, but her head and neck are completely obscured by bushes. And it looks like a film illustration somehow. And he pulls it back and you see this horrible, like, distorted face. Oh,
it's pretty gruesome, but yeah, Malice is a lot of fun, and we're going to do a new segment here, folks. We're going to do a segment. We're going to find out if it's a truthful trailer or trailer trash is what it is. So we're going to take a poll here. Ian and I have both watched both trailers that we were able to find for this film, and we're going to find out. We're going to discuss here, give our vote on if the trailers are trailer trash or if they're trailer truthful, in that they deliver what the film ended up being, versus saying trailer trash, where it was trailer trash, where it's nothing like the trailer. So, Ian, what would you say the trailers are? Would they trash or truthful?
It's trash, and normally I hate it when they do the old switcheroo on me in trailers, but I'm going to make an exception for Malice.
Mhm.
Not just because I love this movie, but I realize that the filmmakers, or the studio, the people who cut the trailers together, the trailer house, were in a completely impossible position. How do you make a trailer for this movie without giving everything away?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's deceptive in that, they I was surprised because they even go so far as to insinuate that the rapist's crimes, that Alec Baldwin had something to do with it. They don't
Right.
like go into the whole like, oh, there's a rapist on campus and all this other stuff. It's just like the surgeon shows up and he's interfering in the marriage of this, lovely young couple. But there's something wrong with him and he's sinister and he thinks he's God. And there's all these inserts of like a hand picking up like a strand of hair or walking into a garden and finding a shoe. Like both those times, it's Bill Pullman like finding stuff at a crime scene he just happen to wander into. It's totally deceptive. But I
Yeah.
think but I forgive them though.
I will say it's trash as far as what it shows versus what the film is. But yeah, it's one that it's trash in a good way because it needs to be completely deceptive. When this dropped, they showed this trailer quite a bit because obviously they had the star power, they had some money behind this. Um, when the trailer dropped, I just remember that's how it opened, the monologue with Alec Baldwin, and it's like such just an oozy, dripping monologue that you don't really care what the rest of the trailer is because you're just like, okay, I got to see this film because this character is just like off the hook. And then you watch the rest of the film, you're like, this whole plot is off the hook, and backed up by Mr. Jerry Goldsmith doing the music for it because he did the music for Basic Instinct, so why not? You know, um,
Has
but
there been a plot to a movie where like a surgeon hires someone to like rough up people so that he'll have patients? That's to have been right. Because I was thinking it would have been fun if Alec Baldwin and Tobin Bell had been in cahoots somehow.
mhm. That would have been interesting. That would have definitely been that'd be a nice twist, but it might take a little bit away from the whole Tracy story, which
Oh yeah.
again, which which, which I love is they what they do with the Tracy character and everything is just the way this whole script is written is just it's amazing. And a little bit of trivia: the sex scene between Alec Baldwin and Kidman was not included on Aaron Sorkin's original draft of the screenplay, since it was a device he strongly rejected.
Hmm.
But they wrote the scene behind his back, I guess, to try to make it a bit steamy because you had Basic Instinct, and I think the same year you had Sliver.
That
Um,
was the same year as this
that
movie,
that was
93.
with
Yeah.
Alec Baldwin's brother, and
Billy, yeah.
yeah, that movie was I reviewed that for high. This is the early 90s, late 80s, folks. I was the movie man's crazy critic for the high school newspaper, and one of the movies I reviewed was Sliver. I've got I've
Wow.
got I've got the issue. I've got the issue. Yes.
Oh, you got issues, Mark.
And they and they printed it. I reviewed, I think it was one of my last reviews in the newspaper before I graduated in 93. Yeah, I reviewed Sliver. They let me review anything.
You gave it 2 out of 5 Kleenex. Um,
No, I that movie was a bit weird, but it was like Dollar Tree Basic Instinct though. It was really not. It was trying way too hard.
the best thing about that movie was UB40's cover of Can't Help Falling in Love.
That is true. That
God,
is
I
true.
love that. I love that.
That's
That's
a
one of the
great
few
song.
covers where I listen to. I'm like, yeah, this has a reason to exist. This is different enough and good enough from the original that it's its own thing.
Yeah, and this film, and Malice is a follow up to Sorkin's other film, which she wrote just a previous year with Nicole Kidman's husband at the time, Mr. Tom Cruise, in A Few Good Men, one of my other favorite movies from the time. I love A
right.
Few Good Men. and that was Sorkin as well. So, Sorkin, this is him on the rise. This is him, people, yeah, it's a fun movie. It really is, and hopefully we didn't spoil too much. And hopefully it still keeps your interest because this doesn't touch everything, folks. I mean, we've discussed a lot with Malice, but you've got to experience this film on how it plays out, because if you watch enough movies, this it's its own thing. This is literally, and yet it doesn't feel jarring. Really, it kind of flows one into the other a bit. I mean, a little bit out of left field, but not too much to where you're just like, okay, let's just roll with this.
It's more like being in a car on a highway where there's like 6 traffic accidents, and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that. Oh my God, what's going on over here? Oh, what? Oh, hey. And you just keep moving along, and there's weirder and weirder shit as you get further down the road. So I think it is kind of jarring, but it's okay, because
Mhm.
I'm like, wait a second, I thought this was about a campus rape. Wait, what? Taking a baby out of her body. What's going on there? She's leaving him.
Yeah. Wait, what? She's with the what? Huh? So,
Right. This movie just it takes so many turns and ends up just like doing concentric circles, but it's so well done. And even if we've described a lot of stuff that happens, Mark's right. It does not compare to the experience of watching this bug nuts film.
ah,
There you are.
there we
Are you
are.
there?
Yeah, I'm here now. I don't know why the internet has been evil. Yeah, it is a bug nuts film. It is well put together. It should be experienced because, if anything, for the talent, how this shows you the draw power of a writer, because Sorkin was not the director, he was just the writer. But after you come off of A Few Good Men, which is a wonderful script, I love A Few Good Men quite a bit, and that had a lot of star power. Suddenly, oh hey, he's writing a script, I want to be in on it. uh, you know, and this is from, what's interesting is Malice is from the director of Sea of Love, which, with Pacino, I believe that
Hmm.
was an interesting film. But he directed a couple of Madonna videos, and he directed Vision Quest
Oh
and
wow.
Taps. So I mean, this is the director who gave us Taps and Vision Quest. So,
And
Harold.
Taps had Tom Cruise in it, which is connected to Aaron
Or
Sorkin.
Sorkin's A Few Good, yeah.
6 Degrees of Aaron Sorkin, and we just invented a new game.
There you go. And there you have it, folks. The trailer was trash, but we don't mind it, and I highly recommend it. Your final thought with Malice?
Yeah, I'm glad that we watch it. It did kind of make me sad though, because
Hmm.
this is pre, pretty much pre-Prestige Nicole Kidman.
Mm-hmm.
It's not long. I mean, a couple years after this, she was in Batman Forever and everything. But now I think of her as like an actress who's in kind of awards bait, important, hard hitting dramas. It's just nice to see her as like kind of a regular movie star on the rise, taking roles in thrillers, and something that, because she's got, it's hard for me to put my finger on, but I felt like I was watching a completely different actress than the Nicole Kidman I think of when I think of Nicole Kidman today.
It is slightly in a good way. It is.
Yeah.
You've seen it develop. I mean, she had Dead Calm before this. She showed up, in Days of Thunder, Billy Bathgate, Far and Away. In fact, they plug her as, Nicole Kidman from Far and Away, which took off. So it's fun because this is her really getting into the rise of it. It's 10 years since, yes, folks, we're going to watch one of her first films at the end of the month to see where, she went, and then where she came from. But here it is. It's her. It's like she already had the talent there, but it's like Hollywood directors and writers, especially directors, seem to get how to direct her, and she's really finding her her whatever you call it for an actress or an actor, the mojo, whatever you want. It really feels like she found her mojo going into it with this batch of films that she did from late 80s to now. And like you said, and then she did To Die For, which was a fun movie.
Yeah.
And then Batman Forever, you're like, what? But then she was in a lot of really interesting films, and that's part of the thing I find fascinating about her career is she'll do these smaller indie type films, and then she'll do a blockbuster film, and then she'll do an awards film. It's like all these different projects, and she's decent in all of them.
Oh yeah, she's a very good actress. There's something, I don't know, maybe it's she's playing harder characters.
I think it's
people
harder
that more,
characters.
yeah, harder characters in prestige films.
Mhm.
And even though she's good in everything that she does, because she's a phenomenal actress, there's just something more human about these earlier parts, something quirky, like when she's in a To Die For, or playing Chase
Mhm.
Meridian in Batman Forever, or playing it straight in this, a straight psycho
Mhm.
in Malice. Yeah, it's just like I want to visit the parallel universe where she had just gotten better doing these kinds of movies up into her, like, over the decades, instead of like I feel like her career like really took a different tack when she got together with Kubrick and Tom Cruise and filmed, Eyes Wide
Mhm.
Shut. I mean, for all sorts of different personal reasons, but also professionally, it seemed like that was like a branching off point where it's like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
I'm doing theater, now in the movies. Yeah.
She's doing theater, yes. And speaking of theater, folks, next week we're gonna have a very interesting film
Oh boy.
from a very rather controversial director, I guess you could say, Mr. Lars van Trier. And we're gonna look at a film from 2003, not The Human Stain, which was the other film that she was in, which I was weighing. I'm like, which one do I want to watch? Do I want to do The Human Stain or do I want to do Dogville? Well, I bought the damn DVD, folks. We're watching Dogville because, by God, it's hard to find. And that's another one you got to buy on streaming. So next week, talk about theater. That is pretty much theater on film from what I've gathered, just the little bits I've watched. We're looking at Lars Van Trier's Dogville, starring Nicole Kidman from 2003, so 10 years after Malice. So we'll see how we feel about her performance and that film next week. You'll want to stay tuned for that. And now, as always, this is where I give my guest the license to shill. So, Ian, shill away.
Thank you, Mark. I'm Ian Simmons. I run Kicking the Seat, which you can find at kickseat.com. You can also go to YouTube and look me up on the Kicking the Seat YouTube channel. And have like weekly movie reviews and interviews and live streams and stuff. And speaking of live streams, this Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central, we'll be talking about the 6th episode of the 3rd season of The Mandalorian on Disney Plus. That's 8 o'clock Central. And then right after that, 8:45 Central, we'll be talking about Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves, a movie that surprised me.
I think it surprised a number of people. And yes, folks, also, we have a gentleman here who's also hit a major milestone, and I'm going to announce it now for the man because it is awesome, well deserved. Mr. Ian Simmons, Kicking the Seat YouTube channel has gone over 1,000 subscribers. He's now
Yay.
YouTube partner.
Thank you.
Well deserved. And before you know it, you'll be at 100,000. And
Am I gonna be doing YouTube from beyond the grave? What the?
you might hit that before I hit that, but in any case, congratulations, sir. I'm very happy
you.
for you. It opens up some other things for you with the YouTube. Me being old YouTuber and still not really getting that high. I could say though that it opens up a number of other opportunities, and you just go up from here. So,
Well, and thank you, Mark. And I said this to some of Earth's mightiest critics earlier, but I'll say it to you since we're announcing things. And this is an announcement. It's just a reiteration that I would not have gotten to wherever the hell it is I've gotten without you and my other friends who have helped build the channel to what it is. For constantly agreeing to come on and talk about movies with me week after week. It's a lot of work that I know I ask a lot of you, but you all answered the call, and I appreciate it like you'll never know.
Well, thank you. It means a lot, but I'm just happy to be part of it and help you grow. And that channel is just going to keep growing, I think. So that's awesome. Check it out, folks. Kicking the Seat. Help him get to 2,000 subscribers and then 100,000 subscribers. Before he and I are both doing this podcast from our nursing homes, which I probably will be doing at some point. I'll be up there going, "Welcome to the spoiler room. Grab your favorite pair of teeth and join us." But until we reach that point, I will just say good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.